Thank you, Wuri, to be being the guest with us today for the podcast about PhD voices in the Department of Educational Theory and Practice. So, how's life has been going with you so far? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your progress in the program?
Mhm. Thank you, Mary. This is my pleasure actually to still involve with ATAP Dog. Mary is one of my wonderful friends who are gracefully willing to take care of these organizations. So I'm Wuri. I'm in my fifth year of the program. I'm a PhD candidate. Currently, I'm trying to finish my three dissertations. Three articles because I take three articles dissertation style. For those who doesn't know about this style, this is when you write three articles and then publish them in order to graduate from the school. For my research, it makes a lot of sense because there are so many elements and also things that I have to describe that cannot be finished in one article. So breaking down into three articles make it easier for me to write. And I also currently have positions at the University of Montana. I got visiting professorship for 1 year to teach Indonesian language for Kadre Language School. So this is a language school for military trainer. So I'm actually teacher educators too, to teach them Indonesian and to refresh their previous learning experience when they're learning Indonesian language, culture, and also geopolitics. And yeah, currently that's all about me. Oh yeah, my research interest is about language and technology, specifically in autonomous language learning. My dissertation focused on an informal language learning in social media, especially for autonomous learners who try to improve their speaking, writing, and listening skill through online informal socializations. So it is actually an ethnography, internet ethnography, where I interview 10 people, but in this case I will report only 6 people because they represent the characteristic of my participants, and I actually follow their learning processes from their personal space and then online informal space and then post online informal space when they still connect to people beyond language learning. So that's my research.
Informal situation, it means that it doesn't belong to a formal training or formal courses. It's more like a self-paced learning. How do you define that?
Yes, so what I meant by informal language learning is that some of participants, they might have a formal training in language, but they are involved in an organization when there is no specific institutions undergo this organization. So this is what is this, community built education, and everything is basically community share. So there is no specific rules or regulations that was written, even though in reality people still have following unwritten rules, such as being respectful and also use the target language sometime, or only talk about language learning related issues rather than self-promoting and stuff like that. So in this community, the focus was improving understanding of the target language, and it's not only the linguistic part but also non-linguistic parts such as the culture, the trend, the news, something like that. So yeah.
So basically, you're like working right now and also like writing the dissertation, and like you say, you're choosing the path of publishing three article papers in order to graduate. Are there any obstacle and struggle to stay balanced between study, work, and I know you also have a very beautiful family. So how do you balance between study, work, and family commitment?
Yeah, I have to be honest, work-life balance is a myth for me because at this point I'm still having a commitment at school. So at some point I have to sacrifice the time that I supposedly spend with my family to focus on study. But one thing that I can maybe tell people is that being consistent is the key to keep in track, because as a mother and also full-time worker, usually you have limited time other than those two responsibility, and if you just following the two responsibility without spending time with your other goals, which is education, you can just forget it easily. For example, for the past 2 months, I didn't write anything on my dissertations because of the moving, and then my son need to find a school, the new job, etc. But then for the past 2 weeks, I realized that if I follow the rhythm of my life beyond the academia, I will forget my own patience, basically. So what I do is I'm trying to spend at least 1 hour every morning before I start working to write at least one paragraph in my dissertations, or at least to write something in my mind, to make sure that I keep in track. And when I have longer time, for example, weekend, I can basically revisit what I wrote the whole week and see if it match with what I want to talk in my dissertations. So what I do is being consistent, at least one paragraph a day. It seems little, but if you keep doing that, it's actually a lot of things that you write.
Yeah. Actually, during weekend, actually ETAP just has the write-in version of write-in hours. So it starts every Sunday from 2:30 to 5. So if we have that kind of time, you can also come, and we are just doing the same thing, just write something, like you say, consistently throughout the week. So in order to shape the dissertations into, hopefully we can cross the finish line with each other. So today is the first session, actually. So if you have time next week, you can join us too. Yeah.
I will, because I know I read it from the group, but I forgot if it is today or next week. But I will definitely join that.
Yeah, at first we thought that it can be an event like bi-weekly, but I think it's better to form a habit like you see with more frequency. So we decided to host it every week. So during the weekend, we can just sit down and just work. And the host will keep track of, every 25 minutes, just put on the chat that everyone can stand up, stretch, and have a cup of tea. And at the end, we just, say goodbye before moving on with the day. So I totally agree that consistency is the key. Do you think in terms of resources, are there any resources on campus or personal resources you want to share for PhD students who work and care for, like you say, care for other commitment, like family commitment, for example, especially women?
Yeah, at this point, honestly, I don't know if they have specific resources for women with children, but when I bring these issues to the administrators, the president and the secretary, the president of our university, the secretary, and also the GSA, they actually give me several resources for basically low-income family in New York. So they actually have discount for PhD students who want to send their children to daycare. I think it's like $80 per week discount, but at that time, at least last semester, I do not know now, at that time, I think those discount is not sufficient because the daycare that are designated to accept this discount from the New York State are always full. I actually registered my son before he was born, and then up to the date I was there, my son was 18 months, he didn't get the spot at all. And even if he got the spot, I still need to pay like $280 per week. That's a lot of money for graduate students, especially if you have family. You actually accept way less money than you're single as a graduate student. So at this point, childcare wise, they do not have any support for that. And also the space wise, for example, if you go to the library, there is no specific spot for mother with small children to study quietly.
Like even for the lactation room where you can have
lactation
private
room.
space, with kids.
There is no specific space for that, but of course there is space that you can go where you can lock the door and do things that you need to do, but in reality there is no space to make our kids occupy when we are studying. So that's something that I try to advocate since beginning, at least like provide 2 or 3 space where students with small kids can study, and also a small space for them to play, so they can balance their role as a mother and as a student. But at this point, if you have somebody who carry your kids and you just need to, let's say, pumping, we have, at least School of Education have designated room for you to pump. But this room is only for pumping. You cannot bring your kids there and then play there for a while when you're studying. No. And it is a sharing room because not only 1 or 2 people have lactations need at this point. When I was still in Albany, we share it with 5 others employee and also students. So when we were there, we just lactating. We do not basically studying and have a space to care of our kids. So we don't have that at this point. When I was there, mostly I stay at home because that's the place where I can work, I can occupy my son, and I can do my thing. But when I have my son, it was during pandemic, so I work from home all the time. But now we go back to university, so I do not know if the university start to realize the need of support for graduate students to basically work and care for their kids while they are working.
Yeah, I remember visiting you when you just had your child, and actually at that time now you are talking about like a toddler who can be can search for help from the daycare, right? But at that time when I visited you, actually it's like a newborn baby, and if there's like, if a professor has a baby, then he or she can take the leave. But I think for PhD student, not a lot of us would take a break from study or work in order to take care of your newborn baby. So how was the life of a PhD student at that time? Like at the time that your son was born, how do you manage it? Because I know that some PhD student in the department, maybe they are planning to have a kid. So maybe it would be helpful to have a reflection on, the difference when you plan for a kid and then when you have to take care like a newborn baby.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, because now people are start family when they are doing their PhD. When my son was really young at that time, I really do not have support. My husband worked all the time because, when you have children, you have a financial insecurity, especially it's during pandemic and your expenses like triple up, for example. So my husband was working all the time and I was the sole caretaker for my baby. And I think at that time, what I think will be benefit for PhD mother is to invest on recorder, I think, because trust me, you will not have time to sit quietly for hours to write. At that time, I still took some classes to finish my coursework, so you will not have like quiet time to write or do homework. So what I did back then was, when my baby was awake and I have to basically entertain him, I will read him my paper that I have to read for the class in a way that it's entertain him. He doesn't understand what it was, but it entertained him. And then when I have to write a paper, most of the time you always have idea in your mind, but you don't have time to catch your laptop because your baby will want to play with your laptop. So what I did was I just record what I thought. And then when my baby sleep, I type what I recorded. Of course, I will not think about it because when my baby sleep, trust me, I will be very tired. I want to sleep too because I was breastfeeding and then entertaining him, and he was sleeping maybe for 2 hours. I want to sleep too. But at the same time, those recorder helped me to focus because I don't have anything in my mind. I just listening to my recording and I just transcribe it. I transcribe it, everything. And then when I have time to read my transcription, that's the time when I basically try to organize my thought in a way that it meets the standard of my assignments. And it was actually works really well. I honestly say I was really tired, but it's for everybody. You will be very tired if you are in PhD program and you are having baby and then you stay at home all the time. But it works really well compared to when I try to force myself think during my baby sleeping. And it's actually
that's a very practical tip that you are sharing.
This is very practical. Yeah, and actually you have time to sleep at night. So when your baby sleep at night, you can sleep because during their nap, you can type what you think from what you recorded. So I think it was really helping my journey being the sole caretaker and also PhD students.
Okay, and in those time, being like a mother, I know like if somebody is single during the PhD, self-care is already important, but I think it's even more important if you're practicing self-care within, being a mother and within a family. So how do you save some time for yourself? If not, then what are some very, basic fundamental self-care that all people need to pay attention to?
Some people have different way to do self-care. I personally like to sleep. So that's the way I taking care of myself. So when I was getting my small baby and I was still taking my coursework and writing my pilot, my dissertation proposal, at that time I always have one day every week that I specifically take to be lazy. I don't want to think about schoolwork. I don't want to think about my work, and I'm sorry, I don't want to think about my baby. So at that time, I usually take at least 2 hours for myself in the bathroom. Just there, thinking and doing, maybe sometimes sleeping. It's literally, I sleep in my bathroom because when I was in New York, I only have 1-bedroom apartment. My baby will be my husband playing and watching video or doing whatever they do. If I go with them, I will ended up taking care of my baby. So I just be in my bathroom and thinking. Other thing that I did, especially during spring, was cleaning my backyard. That's my therapy. So I always have those time that I don't want anybody to basically disturb me. I just want to be in that moment and do things without thinking. So what I did was I was cleaning my backyard. I killed a lot of ivy leaves in my backyard, and then pulling some weeds and planting some mint flowers and stuff like that. It was part of therapeutic things. And I think mother need that time to be themselves. Because once you become a mother, sometimes your identity change. You feel like your world revolve around your kids. And if you follow that, sometimes you lose yourself. I personally feel like I lose myself in a first year of my baby because it was pandemic. I cannot meet my friends. That's the most difficult part. I have to stay at home with my baby all the time. I have a lot of works online. I have to teach online, have classes online. And then those kind of things basically put me apart from myself. I always ask myself, who am I without this baby? So I think those 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week being yourself help you to basically know who you are beyond this motherhood responsibility. So I think that will be an important tips for new mother.
I see. So on that journey, what is the role of your partner? What is the role of your spouse in order to help you, and you maybe also support him for his mental health, um, for the whole family, but basically how your spouse also support you on your PhD journey. What can a spouse do?
Yeah, I think this is a very important moment for both you and your spouse, if you have husband, to understand that this journey is not forever, but it is very intensive time wise. So what I do with my husband was, he knows that I need those time to basically take a rest from my work, and also I need those time to study. So what I did was, we share a time to taking care of our baby. Even though my husband worked full time, every lunch he will go back home to basically walk my baby, care for him for 30 minutes or 15 minutes, so I can take shower, eat in, and maybe basically rejuvenate after carrying him for the whole morning. And in the weekend, he usually the main caretaker for my baby. When he works at the family to do mentoring, he bring my baby there, so my baby can socialize with other kids, because that's the difficult part for me, to socialize. I don't have anybody in here. I don't have friends with kids back then, before Dongni come, before Roberto come, so I didn't have anybody to give my son social life. So that's where my husband role, to bring him to socialize with his students. And other than that, we also need to understand that our spouse is also working, so both of us are tired. So when we are mad or we are very tired, it's better for us not to talk about it at that moment. What I did, usually I just go to bathroom, take shower, and then when I come back, I will feel more relaxed. That's also what happened with my husband. When he was so tired, our baby was fussy and he was sick, he doesn't want to care for him, I was also sick. So what I suggest him is always go to the bathroom, go to shower, take shower. So at least you basically cleaning up all the negativity from outside, and when you come back you feel relaxed, just take a rest. So basically understanding from both sides. We know it's difficult for now, but it's not forever. Yeah.
You also mentioned that there was a time that you couldn't meet with friends or socialize with your friends. So in that motherhood journey, and when you're doing PhD, what is the role of social life, especially between you and your advisor, and also the supportive network from friends and colleagues? How do you kind of initiate new patterns of socializing since you realize that there may be limited time for your friends compared with before? So how do you see yourself changing in terms of socialization and arrange time for social communication?
I actually recognized those emptiness before I have baby, because since the pandemic hit and everybody worked from home, I feel like I have nobody with me. At that time, I just lost my sister and my father. So those two people are the people that I will call all the time. I do have two brothers, but they also have their own family to care for. So I have something that I do not know. It was something missing. And the only person that I could go to was my advisor. And my advisor is really nice. My advisor, Dr. Meskel, is really nice and very compassionate. And I told her, I'm very lonely. Can you connect me to your students? So I can, build a networking, social relationship, even though it was online. And at that time, she was actually connecting me to students who have similar research interests with me and also have similar background. At that time, I was not a parent yet, but I almost to be a parent. So he introduced me to Dongni, and also Fang Wang, and also Roberto. So 4 of us, we are parents. We are all of us only have 1 children, and we also a PhD students under Dr. Meskel. So what we did was we meet every week, every Friday, to sometimes just meet and talk. And then sometimes we also have project together where we write, and then we remind each other about each other's responsibility. So it's actually kind of like keep me in loop of academia, because like what I mentioned before, if you do not have something that keep you in touch with the academia identity, you will be basically sync with your motherhood, students' responsibility, and your professional job. So those groups is really helping me to focus on my identity as an academia, and to remind me that I have a community with the similar background, yet they still striving in those limitations. They have family, they have responsibility as students, and they also have passions to do research together. So that was something that helped me to keep working on my goals in terms of academia, and also networking for research with people with the same interests. So I think this aspect is something that miss from the home study, the one that you sent me earlier, because in home study what keep PhD mother survive is a mentorship, family support, and I think department management, something like that. But for international students, we do not have familial support. What we have is a community support. So other than the mentor, we need somebody with the same background to keep us in a loop of education, in a loop of academia life. And I think Dr. Meskel's idea to connect us with each other are something that make me basically survive until now.
Yeah, so welcome to Vindy. I thought that we're gonna after the meeting, and we are doing the podcast about like how mothers how can be a mother, and also like doing different role, right? Like writing and teaching, and also like a family commitment. So how do all different roles like that, but still having time to self-care and take care of our mental health and physical health. So actually Devandy is also a mother that is doing the doctoral study like Wuri.
So Wuri, mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I officially introduced you to each other in this episode then. But definitely, can you tell a little bit about yourself, maybe, so that Wuri also, this is the first time Wuri know about you, so you can talk about your family, and then maybe your decision to enter the program.
Okay, so I'm Devindi. I'm from Sri Lanka. I came to the US in 2017 with my husband for his PhD at SUNY Binghamton. So now he's almost done. So he might graduate this December or next May. So then I applied to my PhD. Then we moved to Albany. I have a daughter. She is 1 year and 9 months old. So actually right now, my husband has to travel to Binghamton once a week, and he stays there like 3 days. So during that time, I take care of my baby all alone at home. So it's kind of tough for me right now, because I can work like full time only for 4 days. So I have to finish all the readings, all the assignments, because when I'm at home, I can't work much with the baby. So right now it's tough, but my husband is trying his best to find an internship or a job this December. I mean, starting from January, so we can send our daughter to a daycare, so we can like peacefully manage our work. But right now it's like really hard to manage everything.
Yeah, we're actually talking about the resources for mother for being mother at UObani specifically and in general. And Wuri mentioned some very like physical room that can be placed for mother and kids that can study together. I remember when I traveled to Singapore, in the library they also have space like that for mother to the kids can play with toys and something to entertain them when the mothers can sit together and work. So I hope that that can be an idea in the future. And actually, Wuri also mentioned the supportive group that that are open to people who also have family, and the children can make friends also during that kind of connection. So let's just say, like, in terms of other resources or other ways to help, do you wish to add anything to that list, Wuri? So that it would be more helpful for the PhD who are mother.
I think for the university, at least from the university when I did my master, they have space where kids can play and there is somebody care for them temporarily during the day. So it's not a full-time daycare, but it's like, drop in daycare for 3 hours or 2 hours while mother is studying. So I didn't see that kind of thing in SUNY. I was trying to propose this idea to GSA, who knows the university can see, the potentials of having that inside our university. So mother will not feel guilty when they have to go to class for 3 hours and then leaving their children somewhere safe. So I think this facility will be helpful for
because for normal working couples, they can think of a nanny, right? Like
yes.
nanny that come, but for student, because you're saying we're on low budget and there's a lot of things going on. So if there can be some help, any kind of help that can be very significant, significantly important. So okay, I think I'm gonna wrap up this session so we can move on to the talk with more talk with Devindi after this. So do you have any final message for students who decide to be a mom very bravely, right? Very brave decision, and students who are already entering the program with a baby. So do you have any final message that you want to send to them?
Oh, for me, I think just own yourself, just own your identity. If you remember, Mary, everywhere I always bring my son because he is also part of my new identity. And I think it's not something embarrassing to be a proud mother and also a proud academia, and showing the world that even though it's difficult, you're still thriving to be a good person. And even though it is slow, maybe you will not work as fast as other academia, but you still can thrive in the society. So just own it.
Yeah, it's not like an obstacle, but actually something dearly and loving and can inspire you to do the things that beyond your imagination. So I hope that the audience can see themselves in this story and can embrace the journey with all the enthusiasm and also love, and a community sense, like we say, like let's stay connected and you're not alone on this journey, because there's a lot of families who have father, mother going to do the PhD just like you. So and an advisor is also very important to understand I think unique situation of doctoral students who are having a family commitment, especially in the early stages of their kids and also doing PhD at the same time. So I think that's it for this episode, and I will look forward to the next episode. Thank you, Wuri, so much, and thank you, Devindi. I hope that you two moms can go through this journey and finishing life with your kids with you on that day. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.